The sophomoric Elon Musk calling him unhinged for just asking for proof of life from federal employees and the federal bureaucrats. You can see how upset they are. Very mad because they've never been held accountable in their lives. This is offensive. I was fired because my performance didn't meet the standards, but I never got in trouble under the agency. Nobody ever gave me a write-up or reported me to my manager. I was just doing my job. I never even got in trouble. Like, you can't send an email. No one passed a regulation that said you could do that. So how dare you do that? You have to go to Congress and ask them if you can send emails to everybody. More aggressive. That's the demand of President Trump. Telling Elon that, Elon is doing a great job, but I would like to see him get more aggressive. Saying, remember, we have a country to save, but ultimately, to make America greater than ever before, make America great again, MAGA. Posted that over the weekend. Elon, executing the president's plan and working hard to save the country, wasted no time at all. Moments later, he said, "Will do, Mr. President. I'm on it. No brakes on this train." He followed that up with this post. He said, consistent with President Trump's instructions, all federal employees will shortly receive an email requesting to understand what they got done last week. Failure to respond will be taken as a resignation. So thousands of bureaucrats over the weekend were sitting there, opening up another beer, another bag of Cheetos, and started screaming, "Oh no, I gotta tell them that I didn't do anything last week because I was out protesting," waddling around the streets of DC, screaming about unfairness and equity and Trump, blah, blah, blah. So they didn't like that one. And several of them have sued already or resued, filed additional complaints that add in this new allegation against Elon. Now, Libs at TikTok got a screenshot of an email that landed in somebody's inbox and said the following: "Here's what it looks like. What did you do last week? Please reply to this email with approximately 5 bullet points of what you accomplished last week and CC your manager on the plan. Please do not send any classified information, links, or attachments at all. The deadline is this Monday at 11:59 Eastern Time." So that's by close of business today. And we're waiting for the clock to continue counting down. So that's what the email looks like, inboxed into hundreds of thousands probably of people's inboxes. And the reason Elon said this is so important is because a significant number of people who work or are supposed to be working for the federal government are doing so little work that they're not checking their email at all. In fact, in some cases, we believe non-existent people or the identities of dead people are being used to collect paychecks. In other words, there is outright fraud that is happening, and they are trying to get to the bottom of it. So Elon explaining why this is happening. Now, the unions and many people who are in support of government grift and against reporting what you did last week flipped out. So this letter got drafted by the AFL-CIO. You've heard that phrase a lot. American Federation of Government Employees, gigantic union of all the government bureaucrats. They wrote this. They said, on behalf of the over 800,000 federal employees that are in our little hack union, which is wild, like they're in a union against the federal government, which we pay for. And when they collect their paychecks from the government, because we pay taxes go into the government, then they pay the employees, the unions skim some right off the top of that and suck it right out of government employees' paychecks to go into these unions, which are basically mandatory. So they write. So this got sent over to OPM, Office of Personnel Management. It says, "Hey, AFL-CIO, I write to address an email sent to all federal employees yesterday from the OPM. The email titled, 'What did you do last week?' was sent from the unsigned and shared HR@opm.gov mailbox." It says this raises significant concerns. As you're aware, the email directs recipients to, quote, "Please reply to this email with approximately 5 bullet points of what you accomplished this week and CC your manager. Please do not send any classified information, links, or attachments. Deadline is Monday, close of day." So they say they lost it. This email fails to identify any legal authority permitting the OPM to demand the requested information. Like, who do you think you are emailing your employees? How dare you do that? OPM's actions conflict with the laws delegating authority for the management of the federal employees to their respective agencies. So OPM and their own regulations can't send emails to everyone else. Federal employees report to their agencies through their established chains of command. They don't report to the OPM. So Elon colored outside the lines. Additionally, the email's vague disclaimer does not provide sufficient guidance on what the information employees should avoid disclosing because they're too dumb to realize it's complicated. I don't know. Can I send this? Can I not send this? I'm just a government worker. Federal employees have a duty to ensure that sensitive information, data, and records are only used and disclosed for authorized purposes. Okay, so don't send it, babies. The email was nothing more than an irresponsible and sophomoric attempt to create confusion and to bully the hardworking federal employees that serve our country. We know. Civil servants. I'm waiting for that one. I have received numerous reports. There it is. From dedicated civil servants, including those who care there for our veterans, I know, and safeguard our nations. Yes, I know, and save little old ladies and rescue kittens who are drowning in the Nile River. Expressing frustration over the email's tone and intent. It hurt their fifis because they don't like to think about their total lack of productivity over the last week. Rather than fostering professionalism and respect for their work, that's the point. We don't know whether to respect your work or not. It's not respect by default because you happen to be in the government for a long period of time and just sat there doing nothing. If you have productivity, report it accordingly and you'll be fine. And if not, if you're fired, you can literally tweet Elon. This hastily written email left many feeling undervalued and intimidated. So anybody who felt that way should be fired immediately, right? Obviously. So that's like first of the list. So do you have names of those people, who they were? No, let us know. We want to send them a bouquet of flowers. Yeah, what's their full name? Send that over. By allowing the unelected and unhinged Elon to dictate OPM's actions, you've demonstrated a lack of regard for the integrity of federal employees and their critical work. Now, it's also clear that OPM has not assessed the cost to government resulting from this thoughtless email. It's going to save a lot of money because whoever didn't respond is now on a list. By issuing this directive, OPM is actively pulling federal employees away from their critical duties without the regard for the consequences. It takes 2 minutes to just write something down. As just 2 examples, a VA surgeon's attention. Oh no, the surgeon had to pull away. The surgeon's attention belongs in the operating room and not in his email because he can't say, I saved 5 people's lives last week. 1 heart, 1 lung, 1 knee, 1 brain, 1 elbow. And an air traffic controller's attention to keeping the sky safe. Literally, things are going to start falling out of the sky. Not on dealing with this unclear and unlawful distraction. Okay. This request and the resulting confusion is not just appropriate. It's disruptive to the essential government functions. And OPM's failure to consider this demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of the daily responsibilities of federal employees and the vital roles they perform in keeping our country safe and operational. We believe that employees have no obligation to respond. It's plainly unlawful. Bunch of people sued. I am also requesting the OPM rescind the email and apologize for stressing them out. Please respond to me by tonight, Sunday, February 23rd at 11:59. Yeah, right. Everett Kelly, national president, sends this nasty letter talking about the sophomoric Elon Musk, calling him unhinged for just asking for proof of life from federal employees and the federal bureaucrats. You can see how upset they are. Very mad because they've never been held accountable in their lives. How dare we have to report on what we've accomplished here? So they updated their lawsuit. You can see this was resubmitted 2/23. Didn't take long. There was a first complaint. They amended it because they wanted to shove in all of the email whining into this complaint. And they did that. So you can see the AFL-CIO, the same people who wrote that little screed about how dare you hold us accountable. They said here that on February 13th, the new OPM ordered federal agents. There's really 2 parts to this. One is about the emails. The other is about the firing. Remember, all of the probationary employees who came in were all fired rapidly without much haste, without much waste of time. They did it with a lot of haste and thousands were gone. Probationary employees are employees of the competitive service in their first year or transition. And Trump, when he came in, they terminated these employees en masse on pretextual grounds. They said, it's our policy to fire you. But Congress controls who fires whom, and OPM lacks the authority to be able to do this. They're an agency with no statutory authority, but they ordered the agencies to use a template email. They said, OPM, all the Treasury Department, all these other agencies, use this template to terminate these workers. And they did, saying that one falsely informed employees about the reasons for their termination based on performance. But that wasn't right. They didn't lose their jobs because of performance. It's because they're not performing anything useful to the government. Now, the federal agencies that followed OPM's directive did not otherwise have plans to do this. They only did it because Elon's a big bully. Now, as of the filing of this complaint, tens of thousands of probationary employees across dozens of federal agencies have already been terminated in a summary assembly line fashion. Each day, more employees receive notices of termination of their federal employment. OPM, the federal agency charged with implementing this, in one fell swoop has perpetrated one of the most massive employment, they call it frauds, in the history of this country. Doesn't that feel good? Telling tens of thousands of workers they're being fired for performance reasons when they most certainly were not. Well, they were hired for unnecessary reasons. The performance of the federal government doesn't require them to be here, not doing anything useful. Now, here is what is brought in this refiling of the amended complaint. It says Congress authorized various agencies, they cite those for us, created the OPM by statute, saying there's a bunch of people who are all getting fired. Approximately 200,000 probationary employees getting nuked out of here. Trump came in, made some orders. OPM said, give me a 200 character limit explanation, which is like a couple sentences, on why you should be here. Then the decision was made. Probationary workers got canned. They're out of here. All of these agencies are on the list. CDC, House Housing and Urban Development, Forest Service, Veterans Affairs, blah, 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 all the rest of them. Okay, giant list, all of these disgusting bureaucracies. While implementing the orders, numerous federal agencies informed workers that OPM ordered the terminations. And for example, they give us conversation here about how that went down. Then they used template letters and they said, based on your performance, right, has not been adequate to justify further employment at the agency. So they're like, this is offensive. I was fired because my performance didn't meet the standards, but I never got in trouble under the agency. Nobody ever gave me a write-up or reported me to my manager. I was just doing my job. I never even got in trouble. The termination letters issued to probationary employees continue to cite for performance reasons, right? It's not a smear. It's like your performance just doesn't match the needs of a high-performance government now. Despite the citation of these termination letters, they're offended. Many terminated employees, here you go, they got excellent performance reviews. And you can laugh at a lot of these because it's government bureaucrats doing performance reviews for other government bureaucrats. Everybody does well. Nobody gets fired. Supervisors were not consulted as to the performance of the individual probationary employees before they were terminated. They got overruled. USA Today said fired probationary employees all said they were never told of performance problems. We all did great. One hadn't even been in the job long enough to have a performance review. Right. And the performance was not needed any further. Another one had to relocate 1,700 miles, which sucks. But now they'll have a new home and clean calendar. Find something new and exciting. So this is the impact, and the impact, they go, it's very harmful. Lots of people are being fired. Lots of these probationary employees are working in all of the most sympathetic industries you can think about, like cancer treatment, addiction recovery, prosthetics, burn pit exposure studies, and more. Yes, we know. The mass termination also directly harmed vote vets and more. And the common defense also faces imminent harm to itself and its members because we are going to lose money. Now, here is the latest. So they just amended their complaint and they dropped this whole section in here. Oh, and California is going to burn down now. The Forest Service efforts to remove underbrush are on pause. So California is going to catch fire now because of this change. It's a good thing it hasn't caught fire before, but now it's going to be in real trouble. All right, so here is a big section they just added, fresh out of the oven. We know Elon sent his email and they introduce a whole section. They write, all right, look, OPM's new reporting program, they call it a new reporting program for all federal workers. It's an email. They say on February 22nd, Elon Musk began to implement a new mandatory reporting program for all federal employees throughout the federal government. OPM has ordered all federal employees to submit email reports justifying their work. That was Elon's email. Prior to February 22nd, federal employees were not required to submit any reports about their work to OPM. They didn't have to because no one cared. So now there is, they say, according to us, there's no OPM rule, there's no regulation, there's no policy, there's no program ever in United States history has purported to require all federal workers to submit reports to OPM. Like, you can't send an email. No one passed a regulation that said you could do that. So how dare you do that? You have to go to Congress and ask them if you can send emails to everybody in order to operate the executive branch, because Congress says who can email whom. So here's how this went. On February 22nd, employees throughout the federal government employed in many different agencies received the same email from the address called hr@opm.gov, writing, prior to January 20th, no such email address existed for use by OPM or within the federal government, so it's new. On information and belief, this email is being sent under the purported authority of the OPM. Now, on information and belief, this email was sent to over 2 million federal employees. This message was sent with high importance. The message was not signed by any government official, nor did it identify the head of the agency on whose behalf it was sent, the authority or program under which it was sent. How dare you send this email? Who is it? Where did it come from? The title of this email is "What Did You Do Last Week?" The body of the email said, please reply to this email with approximately 5 bullet points of what you accomplished last week and CC your manager. Please do not send any classified information, links, or attachments. The deadline is Monday at 11:59. Now, on February 22nd, everybody's like, where'd this email come from? I don't know. A social media account purporting to belong to an individual named Elon Musk. Who could that be purporting? I don't know. Who has been identified by the president as the head of the federal agency known as DOGE, which I think is actually inaccurate. So they have officially filed Elon as a special government employee who's a senior advisor to the president. He's not actually even officially a part of the DOGE team at all. Officially, according to government filings from the Trump administration, he posted the following message. So that's not even right, but posted the following message: consistent with Trump's instructions, all federal employees are going to get an email. Failure to respond will be taken as a resignation. Everybody goes, what the hell? Kash Patel, Christy Nome, many others were going, whoa, right? And we saw other emails back from even some agency heads say, hold on a minute, wait till further ruling before you start firing off emails. emails. Now, prior to February 22nd, no notice was published in the Federal Register or anyone else about any program, rule, or anything requiring all federal employees to report up. Prior to February 22nd, no notice was published anywhere about any policy, about any regulation, about emails from HR at OPM. And nobody talked about resignation until today. Now, OPM has not complied with any procedural requirements according under the APA, the Administrative Procedures Act, which they bring up a lot, to constantly say you have to go through proper mechanisms before you change things. Subsequent to the OPM email notification, at least some federal agencies, including the FBI, began telling their employees not to respond to this request. And we've seen some of that. So they're suing, as you can see. So what they want to do is order the OPM to stop terminating probationary employees, saying you cannot fire these people anymore, saying Congress exercised legislative authority, Congress creates the agencies, Trump has to do whatever Congress says. Basically, the executive branch is just an order-taking agency that just does whatever Congress says. There's no really even need for a president. Just like Joe Biden, he just signs whatever's in front of him. There's no take care at all. OPM's actions also exceed the authority that Congress gave them, and saying they're not authorized. Article 2 is meaningless, and Congress overrides whatever President Trump wants to do. So they make their claims. They're saying it's arbitrary and capricious. They also tell us that is inconsistent with what Congress wrote in the statutes. And so they're asking that they declare all of Trump's new programs that fires the probationary employees to stop, calling it unlawful, and requiring federal employees also to send the email are unlawful. So you don't have to respond at all. They want injunctive relief, setting aside OPM's order, saying nobody needs to respond to that email. You're not going to be fired, and we're going to send you an apology so your feelings are no longer hurt. Stop terminating people. Require Trump and everybody and Elon to rescind other prior unlawful terminations and hire everybody back, I suppose. Enter injunctive relief to the order from the email, telling everybody don't take any action against employees who fail to respond. We want attorney's fees and any other relief that the court deems proper. And of course, as per usual, as we pay close attention to here, look who is filing in this case, as always, Norm Eisen. So add him to the list. Another one from Norm Eisen. He signed several of these that we've talked about here and is involved in many other groups and developing funds for other groups that he's not filing on. This group is Altshuler Burzon LLP. So looks like Norm might be signing under their name and then moving for Pro Hoc Vice to get in there. Now, we've got some reaction to a lot of this because Jeffrey A. Tucker is a person who posted a great piece on this. He's an author, publisher over at Brownstone. You know, a lot of this is happening pretty quickly, but we got to think about this in context. What is Elon doing? He said, I'm concerned that many people do not understand the historical and institutional context in which the Doge labor reforms are unfolding. They look at this as if these are some random, chaotic, arbitrary, strange, even cruel measures to impose on a devoted civil service, which is like, gag me, my words. The reality is very different. I'm not even sure Elon entirely understands this. You know, for more than a century, even dating back to 1883, the civil service, so-called, has grown and grown without check from the elected branch, either the presidency or the legislature. The bureaucracies have ballooned from a few to 450 or so. So more agencies than years in existence in the United States of America. 450 is longer than we've even been a country. And I've heard Mark Andreessen make that point and others. It is shocking. It's like new agencies. New agency for that. New agency for that. New agency for that. It's like shopping spree for new agencies. Stop it. You're cut off. The bloat and the absurdities have grown too. So get this. No one has ever known what to do about it. Not Coolidge, not Hoover, not Nixon, not Reagan, not Clinton, not Obama, not Bush. No one. No president has been able to crack this nut. The only reforms ever to have made it through are those that make the administrative state bigger, never as smaller. Countless cabinet secretaries have come and gone, always with the intention of making a change, but leaving sad and demoralized, outwitted, outgunned, ultimately devoured. No president has seriously taken on this problem because they simply did not know how. The unions are powerful. The intimidation from the deep state institutional knowledge is overwhelming, right? Everybody hoards their little silos of information. You can't work anything because it's the same story that Jim Jordan told about the guy with the key at the national parks, saying somebody, when he's on vacation, he's the only guy with the keys to the toilets and people lock themselves in the toilets at the national park. That guy got fired. And where's the guy with the keys? Because nobody else has keys because that guy hoarded the keys. That was his job security, hoarding the keys. Happening all over the country. Then there's institutional knowledge that they won't share, so nothing can function. The fear of the media has always been powerful, and every single president comes to power vaguely feeling threatened by the intelligence agencies, some even shot in the head by them, maybe. The industries that have captured every single agency were also far too powerful to unseat or to control. This combination of institutional inertia has blocked serious reform for a full century. No No one has even dared. No one has even had a theory or strategy about what to do about this problem. It had become so terrible that most people in politics have simply surrendered, like homeowners who know there are rats in the basement and bats in the attic, but long ago gave up trying to fix the issue. All this time, the American people have felt themselves ever more oppressed, weighed upon, taxed and regulated, spied upon, browbeaten, and otherwise overwhelmed. Voting never made any difference because the politicians are no longer controlling the system. The bureaucracies ruled it all. The Biden years underscored the point. We didn't even need a conscious and present executive. We only needed a figurehead to pretend to be president. Just like the Soviet premiers in the old days. The institutions ran everything and the people controlled nothing. How to deal with this? Trump alone figured it out in his last term. He simply took charge of the agencies in a limited way. There were screams of horror and plots galore. They performed a long stream of clever schemes to destroy him and show him who is boss, which is not the democratically elected president, but the forces behind the scenes. The job of the president, goes the message from all insiders, is to pretend to be in charge, but not actually do anything meaningful. Shut up, mug up, obey, and disturb nothing. Let the administrative state do its thing without oversight or disruption, and then you will get your honorary library, your best-selling autobiography, and your Netflix show, and go down in history as great. Trump refused the deal. Look what happened. 4 years have gone by, and Trump is back again. This time with a determination to slay this beast, one that he knows all too well. The efforts of Doge and Maha and MAGA are epic in scope, breaking a century of pathetic acquiescence towards the deep, middle, and shallow states, at last using moral courage to confront the problem head on, come what may. They are profoundly aware that they must act fast, and with some degree of ferocity, even recklessness, else we will default back to the status quo of leaders who pretend to be in charge while the embedded systems run things behind the scenes. It has been this way for too long. The voters this time have demanded change and mustered the faith to believe that change is possible. This is precisely what Doge is attempting, to make good on a promise that for once the voters actually believed was credible. They simply must succeed. There might never be another chance. The way of failure is the path everyone knows the US was on towards economic stagnation, political sclerosis, and eventual irrelevance in the unfolding of the next stage of social evolution. Banger from our friend Jeffrey A. Tucker. Here was another statement from Representative Ralph Norman, said not a single government agency is occupying even half of their office space, for crying out loud. Scoliosis? Or maybe that's it. Here's Ralph Norman explaining, get back in your buildings.
Price tag that the taxpayers pay is right at $271 billion a year. Is it too much to ask for them to verify why they're making an average salary of $106,000 a year? Do you think in the private sector that single mom who is working 2 jobs in a restaurant can't justify where she was, or the hygienist at the dentist's office can't verify how many patients they saw? The absurdity and I guess the arrogance of the workers who says that's a heavy lift, that's what the Americans are sick and tired of. It's not their money. We're the ones who are paying the bills. We have a right to know
it is. It's time to clean it up. That's what's happening. But the unions, who get massive paydays grifting off the American taxpayer, and the employees who should be entitled to that money, want it to remain a gray area so the grift can continue on indefinitely.